Can you believe we have a new Resident Evil game confirmed to be in development? I don't know about you, but I've been holding my breath waiting for confirmation for RE9. The Resident Evil series has been doing well for itself, with Resident Evil Village selling 10 million copies at the date of writing the script, and is the third best-selling Resident Evil title overall. Still though, franchises die off, and with each concluded game, I worry about the next installment getting greenlit. We all played the last installment in a series without even knowing it at one point or another. So I was over the moon when I heard Capcom confirmed Resident Evil 9. They're keeping things under wraps, for now, but there's a multitude of directions RE9 could go in, which we'll be going over a few of those today. Heads up, this video will have spoilers for Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 8. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Luffy and welcome to my channel. I talk video games and character analysis, so if that's your thing, subscribe and stick around. If you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a channel member for the price of a cup of coffee per month. Support like yours helps me continue to bring these videos to you weekly. Let's take a look at Jill and Chris and how they may be Resident Evil 9's lead protagonists. Jill's journey to personal redemption. Let me set the stage for you. The year is 2009, and Jill is tethered to Wesker. He's pumping her full of the P30 compound to enhance her natural abilities, along with forcing her to bow to his bidding. Jill's trapped inside herself. She desperately wants to stop attacking her friend Chris Redfield, but is compelled to fight on by Wesker's commands.
Get yourself together, wake up! Jill Valentine!
When she's eventually freed from the P30 compound and regains control over her body, she helps Chris and Sheva take Wesker down. But that doesn't stop her from blaming herself for what she did while under Wesker's control. We catch up with Jill 6 years later in 2015 in Resident Evil Death Island. Jill has returned to the style she had before Wesker mind-controlled her, probably as a way to prove to herself that she's in control of her own body now. She looks back on her time with Wesker with Chris and tells him,
"When I was being mind-controlled by Wesker, all I wanted was to kill you. All of you. I was conscious, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like living in a nightmare."
She has a ton to prove to herself and a ton she feels she has to make up for. So wouldn't she be the perfect protagonist for Resident Evil 9? RE9 could be the perfect opportunity for Jill to work through the lingering emotions from RE5. In Death Island, Chris warns Jill that they can't get numb to how dangerous their missions to destroy BOWs are, but Jill shoots back with,
"We can't afford to think about being numb, or souls, or any of that shit. At least I can't."
Jill separates herself from Chris, in her own mind, and it's clear she has a lot to work through. Jill has been through a lot throughout Resident Evil. The last time we saw her in the mainline games, she was being mind-controlled by Wesker. Her story can't end there. If Jill was the protagonist of RE9, it'd give her the perfect opportunity to close her story and gain some personal closure over what happened with Wesker. What would you like to see from a Jill-led Resident Evil game? Chris and his rogue unit, Hound Wolf Squad.
Sometimes the nightmare sticks with you.
Chris has also gone through a huge transformation from RE5 to RE8. RE5 was the last time we see Chris in a mainline Resident Evil game where he's undoubtedly the good guy. In RE8, Chris's hero status starts to come into question. He's wearing all black, which I'm sure Wesker would be really proud of him for, and he has a new obsession with hunting Miranda. The B.S.A.A. was formed to combat the rising cases of bioweapons being developed and deployed all over the world. Chris worked in the B.S.A.A. as he wanted to erase BOWs and make the world a safer place. But unfortunately for Chris, and the world at large, the B.S.A.A. starts to become the very thing they were meant to destroy. At the end of RE7, the B.S.A.A. covers up the Baker incident, which involved a rural Louisiana family turning homicidal and killing almost everyone who stumbled upon their property after they were infected with a mutant mold, which really rubbed Chris the wrong way. Miranda was behind the mutant mold that ended up infecting the Bakers, and Chris wants to hunt Miranda down so that there's never a repeat of the Baker incident ever again. How can he hunt Miranda down, though, when the B.S.A.A. is more interested in covering things up as if it never happened? Chris and his unit, the Hound Wolf Squad, split from the B.S.A.A. so they can hunt Miranda down. The first we see of Chris after this split is in RE8, when he shoots Mia dead with no explanation, then kidnaps Rose and Ethan. Not good guy behavior. It turns out the Mia Chris shot was Miranda in disguise as Mia, which Chris definitely could have explained to Ethan, but chose not to. The devs clearly wanted us to question whether or not Chris was on our side, and what an interesting dilemma that brings up. RE9 could absolutely lean more into Chris faltering and starting to lose his way as his actions become more desperate, extreme, and secretive. Chris is very steadfast in his decisions and believes wholeheartedly that he makes the right choices every time. When he shoots Ethan's not-wife and kidnaps Ethan and Rose without explanation, he puts Ethan in a tough situation where he feels like he can't trust Chris, when the two really should be working together to get Mia and Rose back. There's no way for Chris to stop Ethan from fighting for his family, nor should he expect Ethan to sit on the sidelines. Towards the end of RE8, one of Chris's Hound Wolf squad points out to Chris,
I know it's too late now, but we really should have told Ethan the plan.
Chris pushes back though, and has an exchange with the Hound Wolf squad member.
There wasn't time. We didn't expect Miranda to act so soon.
Even so, you should have told him.
Yeah.
Chris isn't willing to see his mistakes until someone pushes past his excuses, and even then he only accepts it with a short, yeah. It's a good thing Chris has people on his team who are willing to push for Chris to see his errors. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Chris's good intentions to save the world from Miranda almost splintered a family, and arguably got Ethan Winters killed. It was only with Ethan's help that they were able to defeat Miranda, so Chris really should have seen his error hours earlier and explained to Ethan what was going on. Chris going through a bad guy character arc, or a character arc that led him to do bad things for the sake of a good outcome, which is more likely for Chris, would balance so well with Jill going through a journey of personal redemption. As Chris starts to get his hands dirtier and dirtier, Jill can remind him of what he said to her in Death Island.
We've been in this fight for so long. We're getting numb to it. So we have to be even more careful now. Because if we're not, that numbness will burn right down to our souls.
While Jill rises from the ashes that was RE5 for her, Chris could be unknowingly burning his own soul to ashes as he does what he thinks is right to protect the public from BOWs. If RE9 focused on Chris, it could also focus on the B.S.A.A's slow descent into villainy too. They've already covered up the Baker incident. What else could they be covering up, or start to cover up? Especially since Chris has left the organization, and I can only assume he was a pillar of morality for them, as he is for Jill in Death Island. Chris has such an interesting character arc from RE5 to RE8. Usually, Chris serves as a bit of a protagonist man in the series, where he's a vessel for us to project onto, and also the person who's always supposed to be doing the right thing. They introduced the concept of Chris being a villain in RE8, which could be a very interesting character arc for him to work through in RE9. Your thoughts? I've been turning what RE9 could be around in my head since I heard the confirmation that Capcom is working on it, and I've been so eager to know what y'all want to see in RE9 too. We took a poll here on YouTube asking which protagonist you'd like to see as RE9's star, and the majority of you voted for Jill, which I completely understand. I'm also so hopeful for a Jill game after hearing Jill talk about her time working for Wesker in Death Island. That really set up such a great jumping board for her to have her own game dealing with that trauma. Interestingly, the second most voted option was for a new protagonist altogether. And honestly, I'm feeling that too. I know a lot of people had a problem with Ethan, but I absolutely adore him. The devs did such a great job creating the Winters family and making me care about them that I'd be excited to see whatever other characters they can cook up. Ali Jamal 1993 commented, "All I heard is that RE9 might be the last Resident Evil game. After that, Capcom will develop remakes for the remaining ones like Code Veronica and Outbreak, etc." I've heard this too, but I absolutely don't believe it. Capcom is making way too much money on Resident Evil to end the series. Though all their protagonists are definitely aging, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started introducing more and more new protagonists to find fresh faces to carry the series. What do you think though? Do you think RE9 will be the last installment in the series? Do you want it to be the last Resident Evil game? Also, I never thought about them remaking Outbreak, and it would make me so happy if they did. My brother and I had some hilarious times playing Outbreak File 2. Odd Eye 6363 commented, "Jill, the Platinum Games team completely butchered her RE3 remake. She deserves another title." Odd makes such a great argument for a Jill-led RE9. RE3R really was such a disappointment compared to the original. Or so I've heard. I haven't had a chance to play the OG RE3 myself yet. Jill deserves to end her story on a high note. She deserves to prove to herself that she's in control of herself now, and can make a difference to make the world a safer place. Rastaboy Games and Stuff 778 commented, Wesker return. Yes, Wesker returning! I talk about wanting Wesker to return all the time with my best bro, and I'm so glad to see we're not the only ones who want him to make a comeback. They've already revived Wesker once after RE1. Why not revive him again for RE9? Y'all had so many great suggestions who they could have as a protagonist for RE9, and I wish I could talk about all of them here. A few people suggested Hunk to be the protagonist for RE9, which really shocked me. I love Hunk, but I don't often see him talked about online, so I kind of figured he wasn't that popular. Hunk would be such an interesting choice for protagonist. At the time of writing this script, we know pretty much nothing about RE9, other than the fact Capcom has confirmed they're working on a new Resident Evil title. They have plenty of plot points to jump off from. They could continue Mia's story, Rose's story, bring back Ethan, bring back Wesker, or even bring back some older characters like Hunk, Barry, and Billy, which I may go over how that could work in a future video, if y'all are interested. Or Capcom could give Jill the opportunity to work through the trauma she experienced in RE5 and explore Chris going down a darker route, as they hinted at in RE8. What do you want to see in RE9? What protagonists are you hopeful we follow? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's video. If you liked it, share it with someone who wants to know more about Resident Evil lore. If you need more content, check out my Patreon. I upload articles I write on upcoming videos or just thought pieces on video games in general. You can also support me and the channel by becoming a channel member, or join us in Discord. I always need more people to talk Resident Evil with. More importantly than that though, please take care of yourself and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.